Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Friday, December 16th, 2022. Welcome to our live broadcast, live roundtable. Looks like it's just me for now while we wait for some others to join. We want to welcome you all to the discussion and talk about things that are important to us, the things that are important to you. Just a reminder that we are currently running our 2023 membership drive, and to help support us so we can get out and do the things that we need to do for you, if you could go to our website, the l1f.us, and sign up there and become a membership and help us so we can get the information out to you. Today is day 695 of the hostage situation, or that is since Biden's been put in office. We see more and more tyranny and treason every day, and we as people cannot just sit by and let it happen. We have to make sure that we are being active and going out and talking to our Congress members and getting the right people in office and talking to our neighbors and building up on community unification and make sure that we're doing everything that we can so we can stop this treason and tyranny that's happening every day on a daily basis. We need to make sure that we are going out and talking to everybody, and like I said, get the right people in office. And a way you can do that is we're working on some legislation to help make it so the people that are going to attempt to be put in office are, kind of questions on what we think's important and what your neighbors think's important, and not just what the media wants to talk about. I want to welcome Vass in. Vass, welcome to the stream. It's great to have you as well as tonight. Just kind of talking about what's going on in the news and the treason and tyranny that we're dealing with.
Oh, hey, it's always good to be here. Can you hear me all right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. No, I've been having some problems with I haven't been able to do any videos all week. My system's been down. It's just resetting everything. I don't know where the problem is. So I wasn't sure if anyone could hear me today.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So, my God, wow. Crazy day.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. There's been, what got me this week? Do you know what happened this week? I don't know if you mentioned it to anyone.
I haven't really mentioned a lot yet. Today I worked my 12th day in a row, so I'm kind of brain fried as it is, and it's been snowing here in Utah pretty heavily, and I have a really big problem. I can't sleep when it's snowing for some reason, and so yeah, no, seriously, my body does not let me sleep when it's snowing. So
Yeah, that's weird.
the last 3 nights, not last night, but the 3 before, it snowed all night every night. And so I was running on about 4 hours of sleep over 3 days, as well as working 12 days in a row. So I'm still kind of on the fritz a little bit.
Okay. That's odd, but I get it. Well, the thing that got me, I saw this poll in YouGov and I'm trying to do a video on it. If I can get my system fixed, I'll get that done. And it's about the 10th anniversary of
Sandy Hook.
Sandy Hook.
Hmm.
And how there's so many, and they're in that poll, they're going through and asking people, we've got all this gun control that's come out in the last decade. State after state, we did gun control, more gun control, more gun control. And they asked everyone, so what do you think? Does this mean we're going to stop all the school shootings? 53% said no. Of course not. Are we going to stop all the mass shootings? No, of course not. For all of these and all these people who are talking about Sandy Hook and how it's been so effective and we just need more gun control, I keep looking back, and over the last decade, and I've been doing some of the data, once again, I've said it before, but there is absolutely no evidence, neither at a state nor a national level, not even at a city level, that none of this gun control has actually done anything it has been promised to do. Hasn't stopped suicides, hasn't stopped mass shootings, hasn't stopped murders. But they keep making it seem like, oh my God, but it's so devastating. Did you know, according to the foundation, the And this is quoted by the BBC News. So it's not a small survey. It was done by, I have it. Where's the BBC News? They had a study that was done. 189 shooting incidents happened in our schools over the last decade. That includes suicides, gangs, crimes that just happen to be on the property of a school, fights that escalated, as well as mass shootings. There are over 130,000 schools in America. So we're talking about 130,000 schools over a decade, about 19 shootings per year of everything. And if you take out the gangs, and 63% of all the shootings are suicides. So that means you're down to roughly about 8 a year. And people are losing their minds. They're freaking out. And I get it because it's kids. So I get it. And then they say, and that's why we have all this gun control. And name one that has made those kids safe.
You can't. It's not possible. It doesn't exist.
That's it.
It's not about gun control, and we all know this, but it's about people control. The guns are just in the way. They don't care about your guns. They care about what they can do to get to you.
But, they're terrifying everyone. And in the same poll, they asked people, do you think that school shootings are getting worse, or are they getting, is there a problem? There's 8 a year maximum. That's on average. Some years there aren't any. It's 8 a year, which is the same as it's been for the last 40 years. 8.
Well, and a big problem too is back, before big time social media and big news coverage and things like that, people just weren't talking about it. It doesn't mean it wasn't happening.
There's that too, and that's one of the big questions: is does talking about mass shootings, which school shootings are a subset of mass shootings, does that actually encourage more of them? And to an extent, I think they do. Especially when we're talking about school shootings, I think it's more about attention than the
exactly. It's people nowadays are attention me now, right? They're so self-centered and attention-driven. What can I do to get the biggest shock and awe factor and get people to know who I am? I can't remember his name, the Colorado movie theater shooter. The kids at Columbine and all these people, I don't think they're even doing it for the shooting. It's just to get attention. Well, Marshall was here for a second. I think there he goes. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's about how can I get my name out there?
Yeah, and that's what's scary about that. And I want to share this. This is the actual study. This is the study quoted by YouGov.com. This is the study that's quoted by BBC and several other news agencies. It's all the shootings from the 1970s until 2022. And I want you to be clear. So this is the chart going to today. From the 1970s, it's all very steady. And what you notice is there's a pattern here. A bump, it goes down. A bump, it goes down. A bump, it goes down. Bump, goes back down. And yeah, it is increasing. Mind you, the nation increased from about 175 million people to 350 million people. So the population's growing with 130,000 schools. And the thing that's really great here is, and you got to look at the data because everyone's quoting it, it includes gang shootings, domestic violence. It means sports shootings at sports games, after school events, the weekends, suicides, and fights that escalates to shootings and accidents. So you're talking about this is everything that has happened at every school ever. Even on a weekend, if someone's jogging on past or jogging in a field, the school's field and they get mugged on a Saturday, that counts as a school shooting. Okay, so they're counting everything. Yes, it says 299. That's not a real number. Has it escalated? Yeah, a little bit.
I'd love to see the data on like by city, by county, something to see where
Actually,
that data is. Oh, this
Here it
is
is.
wonderful. Oh,
Statistica.
I can't read that top
California.
one.
This is the number of mass shootings in the United States from 1982, which is not when the first one started. It actually started in 1948 from a guy in New Jersey after he came back from World War II. That was the first mass shooting ever.
Oh, a mental health issue? Interesting.
Yep. He had PTSD. Went out in New Jersey. I think it was Camden, and did that. And this is so California has 23 mass shootings over the last 40 years. This is how small this problem is. It gets a lot of news. It is a problem, but this is how small it is. California has 23 in the last 40 years. They have one of the most massive amounts of. They got every gun regulation you can think of. Texas has 12. We've seen a lot of that recently with guys coming from England to go into a Texas church to try and shoot it up and being stopped by good guys with guns. But there's Texas. Florida had 12, like the Parkland shooting. There was that where they recommended that to protect the schools, we need armed people to protect our kids. You have the Colorado shootings. You have Colorado, where they also have massive gun laws. Washington State, massive gun laws. Illinois, well, that's Chicago, the most gun laws in the nation. New York, this tells you where it is.
I was actually surprised that the Illinois was not higher up on the list, and I'm wondering how many gun laws near on school properties there go unrecorded.
Well, many of them go unrecorded, but in Illinois, in Chicago in particular, gangs don't go to school. They just shoot each other up. It is a fact that Chicago is leading the nation in terms of the murders, and I have the data on it. Matter of fact, I do have numbers on Chicago, and if I can find it, not California. Oh, there we go. This is from NBC News. 2021 ends as Chicago's deadliest year in a quarter century. This is with every gun law you could possibly imagine. This is after Sandy Hook. This is after everything we've seen. And they said they're going to make you safe. Okay. According to the police department, 2021 ended with 797 homicides, 25 more than recorded in 2020, 299 more than in 2019. Why 2020 was when we had the riots, the autonomous zones. We had Antifa running around burning down cities like Minneapolis, Portland, where we had 120 days of continuous rioting.
You had BLM and Antifa kicking in shop owners' heads for trying to defend their businesses.
Exactly. So 2019 was the modern regular day, and it's 300 more than when we were normal. There were 3,561 shooting incidents in 2021 alone, and a staggering 1,415 more shooting incidents were recorded in 2019 than in a year. And by the way, according to 2019, the numbers have increased since then. California had 2,945 firearm deaths, including suicides. They were number 2 in the entire nation. Notice, we can go through source after source after source, and I have the data on all of them. And every time, no matter what gun law they pass, no matter how many rights they take away from the public, you always wind up with the same result. It doesn't stop anything. They have still some of the largest numbers of murders and shootings that happen. No one is made safer. The only person who wins is the politicians, a couple of special interest groups, and that's it. Tell me if I'm wrong, guys, because I've got data for days.
Well, and a lot of the people who read those things refuse to look up the data and go off feelings, not facts. And we've been dealing with this for over a decade now, where my feelings outweigh your facts, and no matter what it is, no matter what you show me, I'm right, you're wrong. That's just the way it is. And all your facts that you pulled up there show that most of these shootings are predominantly blue states or progressive areas.
Yes,
And
and that is very consistent.
But we know that the left doesn't only allow violence; they condone it. Yeah, they love violence.
That's when they admit it exists, like Jerry Nadler. What about during 2020? He was asked about Antifa and the riots in Portland, 120 days. He goes, Antifa's a myth. I think it was 3 days later, Antifa, and a self-admitted Antifa member, a former, and mind you, they're all apparently convicted child sex offenders, because that just always seems to be the ones that get arrested, walked up to a man and we have recordings of that. Everyone may remember it. He walked up to a man who had just left the Trump rally, walked up right behind him and shot him dead. But Antifa's a myth. This is how they answer these questions. Oh, it doesn't exist. They burned down Minneapolis.
Here's one thing that I find very interesting in speaking about all this.
Yep.
Okay, they claim that they are trying to save children's lives. They claim that they are trying to save others' lives.
That's
However, they refuse to recognize the fact that over 1 million lives are saved by defensive gun uses every year. Okay, in some years it's upwards of 3 million, depending on which study that you look at. Additionally, another thing they refuse to identify on, excuse me, and let my dog in, is the fact that automobiles cause a substantial amount more deaths each year and more injuries each year than firearms. So they pick and choose what data they want to look at. The thing is it isn't about saving lives. It isn't about protecting people, because if that was the case, then they'd be looking to put more stringent regulations on automobiles. They'd be looking to start regulating hands and feet, fists, because all those cause far more deaths each year than firearms do. Okay, in fact, firearms are actually responsible for saving more lives than they cost.
Well, I just want to mention to everyone, you're not making that up, by the way. People often say, well, how could you know how many people are saved by using guns? This comes from the Obama administration. Okay. So people are wondering, this is priorities for research to reduce the threat of firearm related violence. This was authorized by the Obama administration, January 16th of 2013, right after the Sandy Hook shootings. This was authorized. They did the study and they looked through everything. And in there, they actually have defensive use of guns. The Obama administration, therefore, the Democratic Party and all of its members know, or at least have access to, what the Obama administration knew, which is 500,000 on average. And it can be, depending on the source, it could be as much as 3 million defensive uses saving lives in America every year. So it's not just you making it up. This is coming from Obama. Can't get much more left than that.
I don't know. I think the number one cause of death is living. Sorry, Jan. I disagree.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah.
It's just like the marriage is the leading cause of divorce, but that's another topic for another day.
But as far as homicides go, the number one cause is hands, fists, and feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then you got knives, you got clubs, and other stuff that still are ahead of firearm deaths.
Mm-hmm.
And then since they are focusing primarily on rifles, they are significantly more than deaths caused by rifles, and specifically by semi-automatic rifles.
Sorry.
Well, I was just about to ask about why he's being so quiet.
Yeah.
Frank?
You guys have to excuse me. I have got an absolute splitting headache. And over the last couple of days, my back has been screaming at me really bad. And Lori must be feeling it also because she threw her back out earlier today. So I'm upstairs, she's downstairs, each of us writhing in pain. And I think the best thing for me to do right now is to go jump in a hot tub. So I will be with you guys in spirit on my phone, contributing via text if need be. But you guys seem to have tonight's coverage well in hands.
As long as you don't stream from the tub, I'm good.
Hey, you don't know what you're missing.
Don't you fucking do it. Good night, Frank. Feel better.
Right. Guys, love you guys. Be safe, be well, shoot straight. Catch you on the next episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good night, Frank. Feel better.
Thanks, guys.
But no, you're absolutely right in all of that, and Mike is right as well. And people just need to realize that they need to do their own research, and we do research for them. And as you guys kind of missed the beginning, I started out this stream as we do everything we can to bring you this information, but it takes our time and resources as well, and that's why this membership drive is so important, so we can take time to do this research and bring you the facts and bring you that information. It's okay.
Yeah.
I squirrel.
Yeah. But people don't realize, it is hard, but it's not that hard.
No.
Now, mind you, I've been doing this for 17 years. So maybe I know certain sources to look at faster and easier than most people. I know things that they tend to hide from people and they don't really mention much. I'll give you an example. Notice I'm pulling all this up because, like I said, earlier this week, I've been trying to do this video. Haven't done it yet. Hopefully I'll get it done this week, but I'll show you another source. Here's something that and as you can see above, what is that? 15, 20 different sources that I have just to talk about the history of mass shootings and school shootings in America. This is a form. It's called the Gun Involved Violence Elimination Report. Gun Involved Violence Elimination, or GIVE Initiative, New York State. Comes out every year, 2 times a year. Tells you exactly what's going on with the effectiveness of gun control in New York State. They don't call it that, but that's what it is. It tells us shooting incidents, shooting victims, individuals killed. And it goes back a decade, and it tells us also the year to date. Okay? And anyone can look this up. This is public information. They put it out twice a year. You want to know how effective guns are? Remember, 2013. So 2012 is when we had the shooting in Sandy Hook. 2013, we passed the New York SAFE Act. 2018, we passed the red flag laws. We've also got the reversal of, this year they had the reversal of the Supreme Court decision about concealed carry. In between there, they've also banned passive self-defense, bulletproof vests, as well as many other laws. Do you notice that the numbers are increasing in terms of shootings, the number of victims, the number of deaths? Do you notice that these aren't numbers decreasing? They're not fixing the problem. No one's being made safe. The numbers are flat to up. And anyone can find this. And New York State, they get Kathy Hochul has this information. The members of our assembly have this information. They won't tell the public because when you look at this, the answer is gun control in New York State failed. And I can pull up the same kind of data for California, Illinois, Maryland. I can go through many states where they say gun control is saving lives. Show me the data. Because when I have to look up the data from the CDC, FBI, and individual states, that's not real. That's not what the information says. And they can't pull not one study. Over 2,300 studies have been done trying to figure out, does gun control work? Not one has ever found it to be effective. Not one.
Well, it's not effective. It's just like you said. It's a scare tactic. It's listen to us, conform, consume, obey scare tactic.
Yeah, and that's why it makes me so upset. We could, according to 538.com, which is a far left website doing with their promotion of the far left ideology, and even according to them, when they did the deep dive, and I've done many, but their own deep dive from 2019, as I recall, I don't have that article right now. They looked into mass shootings, and the answer is there is at least 8 different reasons why mass shootings happen, which includes the subset of school shootings. And if you are trying to put out one law that's going to answer all of them, you will fail, and it has. One of the leading things, mental health. What is one of the biggest things that we're not touching in the United States on a state level or federal?
Mental health. We talk about it here every week.
I know. But it's amazing to me that none of this has anything to do with guns.
No.
They keep saying, no, the guns. Hell, it's even so upsetting to me. Think about this. There was Representative Sheila Jackson Lee, who hates guns. She hates the Second Amendment. Sheila Jackson Lee was on Joy Reid, and she was telling Joy Reid, matter of fact, let me show it to you guys again, because we don't need to make this stuff up. The evidence is out there. So I want to show this to the public because this is how much it's out there. According to Democrats, Jerry Nadler introduced this bill this year, June, which is Protecting Our Kids Act. Love the names. Doesn't actually do that, but that's what they call it. All right. And in this act, the second biggest thing that it's supposed to do is prevent gun trafficking. That's the big deal. Remember, who trafficked guns? The ATF under Obama trafficked guns into Mexico. Who got in trouble for that? No one. And then if you look at, and this is from Colion Noor, he covered this, but this is Representative Sheila Jackson Lee going on Joy Reid and explaining why the biggest gun trafficker in the world, Victor Bout, the biggest in the world, who's already, he hates Americans. He's been convicted of terrorism around the world, especially in Africa, and killing Americans, leading to the deaths of Americans, gun trafficking. Exactly what Jerry Nadler is saying that we need to protect Americans from. And we just traded Victor Bout for an entertainer, which means that the global peace has just been reduced. Americans are in danger around the world and at a home. So we got an entertainer. How can these Democrats say they're doing anything right when they're contradicting their own stuff?
A non-contribution, American-hating entertainer at that.
Well, yes.
I mean, openly American-hating. So, but no, let's just let it go ahead and let the worst man on the planet out right now. I mean, but of course, if you ask the left, the worst man on the planet is Trump. Orange man bad, but that's because they don't have anyone else to go after right now. But I'm flustered. I tend to keep quiet most weeks, but this week I'm so fed up with everything that I could go on for hours about this stuff.
I do.
I know you do, and I appreciate that because again, my brain's kind of frazzled. I haven't been sleeping, but
I mean, here's the thing, and everyone who's watching this, I don't want you to take my word for it. That's why I'm showing you so many links. The evidence is so obvious, and every major news media. I'm one man. I'm doing all the research that I've been doing for 17 years. And if I can find this, and yet it may take you an hour or two because what takes me 15 minutes might take someone else an hour. Okay, that's just because of experience and I know what to look for. I know what I'm looking for and where it's going to be. But in an hour, the average person in America who knows nothing can find all this information from left-leaning sources. So this isn't, Republican or conservative. You can find it from the New York Times. You can find this from the BBC News, the Guardian. You can go out and find the reports from New York State and the FBI. You can see these comments from Representative Sheila Jackson Lee and what's being done by Jerry Nadler. You can find this for yourself in an hour, and it absolutely contradicts the do something message that we keep hearing from these politicians that say we're going to do something, which is always ineffective. It is always giving them more power. It is always, and is almost always, a contradiction of something else they just said.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Well, and I encourage anybody who has the nerve to go to their local representatives and ask them on the left side, of course, is, show me in writing, in factual writing, where this law has saved or helped anybody. And they're going to get walked out of the office because one, they know that it's not actually happening. And these people avoid conflict. They want to sit there, have a loud mouth, and collect a paycheck. But they got to remember that we're the ones paying them. And if they can't provide documentation, if they're going to stand behind a bill, they should put their name on the line. They should put their position on the line. I go to work every day and I put my name on every car that rolls into and out of my shop. And I stand behind my crew 100%. And if something happens, that even if it's a day that I'm not there, if something happens to a car or to a customer, I take 100% ownership of that. And I just feel like our Congress people should be doing the same.
Well, I'll call out the one.
Oh, no, you will.
Right on things like the red flag laws. Like Marco Rubio came up with a red flag law back in 2019. He's been trying to push that. I will call him out too. They don't work. They have never worked since 1999. Not in any state, anywhere that's ever been used. It doesn't reduce suicides. It doesn't stop mass shootings. It is a lie. So I will call out the right on this too.
It's caused deaths. Yeah.
Yes.
You go knock on somebody's door at 5 a.m. and they pull their gun out and they open the door to protect themselves. And the police shoot them because they're confused and they're half asleep state and they don't know what's going on. So they draw to protect themselves and the police shoot them. Oh, he drew a gun on me. It's clear he was a psychopath. It's a good thing we were here. It's unbelievable. And it's happening in multiple states.
Well, the biggest one that everyone can remember and easily find is in Maryland. Yeah. That was the case that most people will point out to. Yeah, exactly what happened. Yeah. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Yes, I really do follow this stuff. I know it off the top of my head. I've been doing it that long. Yeah. This is all verifiable. And the fact is, no one in the news media will ever call them. The closest we've ever come is Kathy Hochul this year was asked by CBS News before she did the first round, before she put in the response to the Supreme Court. That was a whirlwind. Our government can be so effective when it wants to. In 24 hours, Kathy Hochul met up with New York State's Assembly and Senate and wrote a bill, voted on the bill, and passed the bill in 24 hours. Why they don't do that for any other issue? You want to get, abortion, you want to protect people from climate change, whatever. If they were really wanted to, we know they can because we've seen them do this in 24 hours. So they can do it. And she was asked.
And that's the first time they've done it. They did it
No.
with
New York Safe
the
Act.
Safe Act.
Yep. Same thing.
Mhm.
Within 24 hours. Turned around, had it passed. But she was asked, Kathy Ocho was asked by CBS News reporter, can you point to any evidence? Is there any data that supports what you are doing? And the answer from Kathy Hochul was, I don't need data because I'm
Yeah.
doing the right thing.
Well, that's his. I can't think of the word, but I'm going to use the word atrocious. That's a word as atrocious as Biden saying, "I've got a pen and a cell phone."
Yep. Mm-hmm.
To me, that's the same thing, and that's unbelievable. I don't need data. I can do what I want, and we let it happen is the problem. Not we, but we the people let it happen, and a lot of people. Let's take and I'm not calling anybody specific out here, but let's take your average American hunter for an example.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need an AR-15. That law doesn't affect me. I don't need a 30-round magazine. That law doesn't affect me. But we need to come together on this kind of stuff. This isn't about your hunting rifle or my AR-15. This is about tyranny.
You know what I hate about that logic? And Mike, you can chime in on this. Tell me if you
Doesn't
agree.
affect me.
I hate this logic that says, well, you don't need that. Well, wait a minute. You don't need a house. You don't need the car that you have, a pickup truck. You don't need the specific name brand clothes that you have. You don't need the box of cereal from Kellogg's when there's a off brand that's cheaper that you've never heard of before. We can point to anything in life and go, you don't need that. But you have it and you perhaps want it because maybe it's a better quality, maybe you like it better, you trust it better, whatever the reason is, you have choice. And that's what America's about. That's part of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the clause from the Declaration of Independence. It's a cornerstone of our life.
But you know what? In all reality of it, go ahead, Mike. You first.
It's the cornerstone of liberty. Okay. The cornerstone of liberty is being able to have the ability to make choices. Okay. Regardless of what that entails. Okay. Your choice of where you live, the choice of where you work, the choice of the vehicle you drive, the choice of clothes you wear, the choice of the candidates that you elect. I mean, all the way along. It's a fundamental principle of liberty.
Right. And
eyes going on into the pursuit of happiness, okay, which is the next phase. And if we actually want to look at it in detail, the Second Amendment doesn't protect just our right to own firearms. It actually protects life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, it's not just about the fundamental right of self-defense. It is about being able to protect everything that we hold dear to ourselves, okay, from government encroachment. That's the whole purpose behind the Second Amendment. And people refuse to understand that are pushing for these gun control laws. They don't understand that this was put into effect not to protect us from other citizens, but to protect us from a government that is out of control.
Well,
that
but
is what it was for.
Right, and to that effect, but thanks to the tenacity and hard work of our friend Dick Heller, we also get to use it for self-protection and things like that. And for them to say, "Oh, you don't need 30 rounds," blah 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 blah. Vass, do you remember what the thing said? What Antifa said, and what the riots said as they kind of got bored in the cities? What was going to happen next?
Oh, they were going to go out to the rural.
We're coming to the suburbs.
Yeah, we're coming to the suburbs and the rural towns. Yeah,
right. So I'm sorry, but if a band of 20, 30 Antifa misfits decide to show up at my door, I need 30 rounds.
Well, we know they do that. We've seen where they have gone to members of government. The matter of fact, they tried to burn down the apartment building that Ted Wheeler, the mayor of Portland, he had his apartment, and they firebombed the building.
Right.
And it's an apartment building. Other people are in that building. They firebombed it because Ted Wheeler lived there. He had to move to protect the rest of the people in the building from Antifa because they were trying to burn down the building.
Yeah, they don't care about the surrounding. They care about the individual, and that's what they go on the attack for. And that's why, it's the exact same thing the government's doing is they don't care about anybody, but they will attack their right to go after everybody. The modern administration, I should say. And I'm not saying Republicans or the conservatives are perfect in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying what I see. I'm calling it as I see it.
Well, Republicans and conservatives, even libertarians, are far, far better about this. At least they try to make something make sense or balance it to some degree.
Yeah.
But the Democrats are straight up telling us, no, you don't have this right, and we're going to make it impossible for you to. And every time they keep coming up with these laws, they're increasing the amount of time and restrictions and cost so that it is beyond the capability of the average person to do. New York's, as an example, New York's recent Supreme Court reversal about concealed carry is designed to take up so much time and to have so much cost that it is prohibitive for anyone who's poor, women, to be able to protect themselves. This is the same way of saying, well, you don't have the right. Okay, I'm just going to make it impossible for you to exercise. This is what we saw with Jim Crow laws.
Yeah.
It's impossible. Oh, here's a document that you have to read that's written in Latin. Yeah, if you can read this, you can vote. It's the same idea. It's a hurdle, a barricade so high you can't make it over it. But we're not denying you the right. You just can't qualify.
Well, go ahead.
Okay. First off, gun control obviously isn't something new.
No.
However, what really gave its footing is the United States v. Miller case. Okay, which Supreme Court got absolutely wrong. And I'm going to explain on how they got that. I need one thing first.
Well, while he's pulling that up, looking at Jan's comment about Brazil trying to disarm its citizens, look at what happened in Venezuela and what happened immediately after.
According to the New York Times in 2018, 5,260 Venezuelans were killed by the Venezuelan government, which had become a socialist government 2 years after they took away everyone's right to own guns and collected all the firearms.
Yep. And it will happen in Brazil. And all those I don't know if you guys watch the active self-protection guy, John Correa, who does a lot of videos, and it seems like 90% of them are out of Brazil, and it's going to get ugly there too.
It's crazy because, and Peru was one of the nations that recently was having the same divide that's been happening in America has been happening there, where it's conservative versus far left. And the far left,
it's happening worldwide.
We're seeing this all across the world. Chile recently rejected the far left. We had Switzerland that rejected the far left. Italy's rejecting the far left. We're seeing this movement.
No, I don't necessarily agree with government forcing people to join the military, drafting programs, things like that. One, because I don't have enough information, but two, because I don't think, but if you look at Switzerland, probably the safest country in the planet, every person over 18 served some amount of time and some amount of training.
Mandatorily,
not
every
only
man.
that, they are required to.
Well, and several women, though.
Yeah,
Right.
every man 18 to
Mhm.
age 18 to 65 is de facto a member of their military, must have a rifle in their home, and can be called at any time between 18 to 65. That is the law,
Right.
which makes it almost
Okay.
impossible. One of the reasons
I
why
want to
they're
get back to
so
what I was.
hesitant. Go ahead.
I was waiting for you to pull it up. So
Go
I
ahead.
was.
Yeah. No, that's fine. So I want to get back to what I was alluding to earlier. Okay. Is what really gave the foundation for these egregious gun laws was the U.S. United States versus Miller case, which made it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court held that Second Amendment only pertained to weapons that were suitable for use in a militia. Okay. And what the court cannot take judicial notice that a shotgun having a barrel less than 18 inches long has today any reasonable relation to the preservation or efficiency of a regulated militia, and therefore cannot say that the Second Amendment guarantees to the citizen the right to keep and bear such a weapon. They got this point wrong on quite a few areas. Okay, number one, the Second Amendment doesn't protect weapons that are only suitable for militia uses. But even if it did, where they really got it wrong was the military has routinely throughout its history sawed off shotguns in combat. And we could see this primarily with cavalry troops during the Civil War. And I'm drawing up a thing from militaryfan.com. Okay.
Well, if I remember right, a shotgun was one of the preferred
shotgun.
weapons for a trench gun if anyone got close enough.
Yeah, it's a trench gun.
Yes,
And it was also
that's
used in Vietnam.
World War One.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were also using shotguns in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I'm going back even prior to this, okay? Because Miller was decided prior to Vietnam, okay?
Right.
It was decided prior to World War II, but just after World War One, okay? A sawed-off shotgun, also called a sawn-off shotgun, and short-barreled shotgun is the type of shotgun with gun barrels typically under 18 inches in length or shorter, or absent a stock. Sawed-off shotguns are easily concealed and at close range have widespread and highly lethal pellets. So accuracy in aiming is less essential. They're often the weapon of choice for criminals. The United States, Britain, Canada criminalized their possession in the 1930s. They're subject to legal restrictions depending upon jurisdiction. They are also used by military forces and police agencies worldwide.
Yep.
Okay. I'm working down here a little bit. Okay, police and military use. American military use of sawed-off shotguns includes use as a primary weapon for Confederate cavalry during the American Civil War. These muzzle-loaded weapons were used primarily for close-range combat and to supplement the availability of more traditional short-range weapons such as the saber and carbine. The availability of the source of weapons and the ability to use a single ball shot or a mix of both as the situation required were the reasons why they were initially desired by those establishing Confederate cavalry units. Okay, so the sawed-off shotgun has been used, and I bet you if we really look into it, we could probably find uses of it during the Revolutionary War also.
Yeah.
So it does have a steep of use by military forces in combat roles. So given that this opinion was written where they didn't see how it would serve as a good weapon for militia use, is completely false. In fact, if anything, a sawed-off shotgun would be a great weapon for militia uses because it doesn't require as much training as a single projectile weapon does. Okay, you don't have to be as accurate with your aiming. You don't have to. I mean, there's a lot of factors that makes it more ideal for a less trained military force.
And wouldn't a short barrel shotgun also be something that the argument from the left is, well, these are military weapons, weapons of war, but it was a civilian weapon that was adopted by the military because it's so effective. It wasn't a military weapon of war. It wasn't designed for, like the M16 is designed for the military.
Actually, if you want to get down to it, all firearms were civilian weapons adopted for.
I've got it pulled up already.
Yep,
I got it pulled up right
exactly
here.
my
Actually.
point.
I was just looking for it. Jamie Catano versus Massachusetts. And if I can remember how to do this, right here, and this button, excuse me. Okay, so yep, so I got it pulled up right here. So
weapon
the court has held that the Second Amendment
bearable is protected under the Second Amendment.
Yep, anything that's bearable. So that's not just rifle, pistol. That's RPG. That's shotgun. That's sword. That's handheld cannon. Whatever you want to put it. If you can hold that an MG42 is a bearable weapon and is covered under that ruling by the Supreme Court, and so anything that you can hold, or anything, I can't remember which one it is, anything that the military should use is all covered.
Now,
if I want to use my watch, go ahead.
Further. Okay. And here's why I want to take it a step further. Today, our modern militia is classified as the National Guard due to, what was it? The Militia Act of, I think it was 1959, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember for sure what the year was. But the Militia Act basically established the National Guard, and the National Guard is considered our modern day militia, or organized militia, I should say. Because we need to understand that there's still unorganized militias.
Yeah. They're covered by the Second Amendment. They're
exactly
fine. Yeah.
Okay. So, given that the National Guard is our modern day militia, and the right of the people to keep and bear arms is protected under that, and the left wants to say, well, that only pertains to militias. Well, doesn't our modern day militia have tanks, Apache helicopters, F-16s, F-22s, F-30 or F-35s, and even access to nuclear weapons?
If they're considering the National Guard a militia, then the answer is yes. Therefore, if the national, there is no difference in terms of militia by the definition in the Constitution of whether it's a state-run militia or if it's an independent militia. It is a militia, and therefore they are capable. If one is capable of having these military access firearms, then every militia should be able to have it, which is why, and I mention this every so often, it's one of the reasons why you can own a bazooka, you can own a tank or a fighter plane, and many individual Americans do. 732,000 machine guns are owned by American citizens. That's legal. And there isn't a single gun control law that has stopped them from owning machine guns, owning flamethrowers, owning rocket launchers, owning tanks. They like to just skip past that all the time when they say, well, you can't own. Yes, you can. And people do. That's one of the biggest lies that's promoted on a regular basis right now is, you can't own a tank. and you never could. Well, yes, you always could, and people do right this second.
Yeah, they
You got
do.
to stop these lies.
Okay, they own tanks, they own cannons, they own fighter jets. I mean, they own attack helicopters. I
Yeah.
mean, all the way across the board.
Yeah, and just ask the ATF. They have a list of a bunch of these things. I've seen it. There's over 3 million people who own rocket launchers and flamethrowers.
Mm-hmm.
I
Now,
mean,
flamethrowers are interesting because they have actually been outlawed by the international.
yeah, after World War II.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, they are considered. If they're used in war, it's considered a war crime now.
Yeah.
Okay. The act that I was referring to actually was Militia Act of 1903, which created the National Guard. In 1933, the National Guard actually became a component of the Army.
See, it's just amazing to me when you start looking at all this stuff. What we constantly see is, for more than a century, piece by piece, our rights are taken away, all in the name of the politicians are going to do something and they're going to protect us. And yet, that has never been the case, not once. The NFA, National Firearms Act of 1934, did not make anyone safe, which is why they've amended it in 1960, 1972. They've amended it many times.
1989.
1989, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's never.
And the problem isn't, that's why they got to change these definitions, call a rifle assault weapon, because it changes the way people think about it to make them think, well, that's illegal. But it doesn't. No one's running around. There's been 4 cases of someone using a machine gun in the last 65 years. Machine guns have only been used 4 times.
Well, the average citizen doesn't understand that to get a machine gun nowadays, it's not that easy. There are
No.
But
depending on where
machine
you're at.
gun, well, right. Well, the average machine gun right now, if you wanted a fully automatic M4 pre 1989, 1984, whatever it is, you're looking at like $30,000. They're not cheap. The average citizen is not going to go buy one.
Yeah, but there's still 732,000 of them in America.
Yes,
and with that number, there are 4 cases in 60 years where a machine gun has been used to commit a crime. 4.
Well, right.
2 of them by the government.
Right. But that's what I mean is they're not the problem. Machine guns are not the problem. It's not an assault weapon. It's a machine gun. I don't care how scary my rifle looks to you. It's not an assault weapon. AR didn't stand for assault rifle. It's Armalite rifle. And people just willy-nilly, I'm going to call it what I want because it's how I feel. It's absurd.
It's all about.
Well, it is absurd.
It is absurd. It's about feelings. My feelings. It's my. I love it. My truth. There is no such thing.
Yeah. Better yet, I'm going to stay off that topic. But I'm going to grab something. I'll be right back.
All right. Yeah. I hate my truth. Anytime someone says it's my truth means you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. It's the escape clause of the modern progressive. Well, it's my truth.
I want to bring up
that's an opinion.
A few new things into our stream. Because one of the things we do talk about typically is how our Congress and our federal government is continuously violating the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
So this came out this week. Okay, and let me. Oh shit!
Now you did it.
I gotta get back.
So Vast, while
okay,
this one got up, I pulled it up.
Yeah.
You know what this is, Vast?
No, it's up. I had it up,
it's
but just decided to refresh.
It's a shotgun. It's not an AR-15. It's a fucking shotgun. You're right. Yeah, just People, oh, an AR-15. No. Shotgun. 12-gauge shotgun.
They go by
Ooh,
what they see in the movies.
scary.
It's in the
Ooh,
movies. It
scary.
must be a scary,
This
assault.
across my Twitter this week.
All right, let's see your Twitter feed. I wanna
Okay.
see it.
Nancy
scared, what's
Pelosi was tooting her horn. Today's passage of H.R. 8393 is a key step to ensure Puerto Rico's future is one of its own choosing. With the Puerto Rico Status Act, the House voted to tear down the vestiges of colonialism, honoring the dignity, equity, and rights of more than 3 million American citizens. For more than a century, Puerto Rico has been governed under the political system imposed by outside forces rather than established by its people. Detailed the right to vote in Congress for president. Puerto Rico's territorial status has left it vulnerable to unequal treatment. Puerto Rico's Status Act will empower the people of Puerto Rico to choose for themselves how to move forward: statehood, independence, or sovereignty in a free association with the United States.
They already vote on that.
Advancing liberty, justice, and prosperity for all in all states, in Puerto
We don't
Rico
need this.
and the District of Columbia across the territories.
We don't need this. Puerto Rico already has and has had the right to become a state at any time. They have the vote. It's a state. What it is, Puerto Rico's Commonwealth. They have the vote on a regular basis, and they have consistently always voted to be a Commonwealth.
Well, I want to
question.
point out a few things in this bill. Okay. So, let's see what you're seeing right now on StreamYard.
And
okay.
While you're doing
So
that,
I need
I got to
to
mention
share
something.
the actual bill.
Well, while you do that, I want to mention something because a lot of people don't know. I am Puerto Rican. Okay, I'm Black and Puerto Rican, and I am an American citizen. I can vote like any Puerto Rican on mainland soil. I can vote in any election. I can run for elected office. I've been in part of the military. I am an American citizen, exactly the same as every other American out there. So people have this idea, oh my God, they're being deprived. No, you're not. No, the island can't vote in Congress because they're a Commonwealth. But I'm an American citizen. I can vote for anyone in Congress. I can run for Congress in any state across this nation and vote in any election. I can do anything everyone else does. There is no difference except for the island, because the people on the island, 3 million, have voted for Commonwealth status because it's actually better than being a state. They actually have more advantages.
Well, I'm sorry, but the argument that America is racist went right out the window the day that Obama was elected president.
Okay. So I want to get back to this bill.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So this is an act to enable the people of Puerto Rico to choose permanent, non-territorial, fully self-governed political status for Puerto Rico, and to provide for transitions to and implementation of that permanent, non-territorial, fully self-governed political status and for other purposes. I love how they always put in for other purposes.
Of course.
Okay. The biggest thing on this act is the citizens of Puerto Rico, primarily the citizens of Puerto Rico in Puerto Rico, are going to be allowed to vote. And they are be given 3 choices. One is independence, okay, i.e., becoming completely independent and sovereign nation of their own, okay, and they'd be independent of the United States at that time, being as right now Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. Their next choice is a sovereignty, which is, again, its own country, but they would be freely associated with the United States. In other words, they would no longer be a territory. They would be their own country, kind of like Canada is in akin with the United Kingdom. Same with Australia.
Oh.
And the third implementation is they would have full statehood. Okay. The first two, I'm not going to go into too much because whatever they choose that is outside of the Constitution down in Puerto Rico. Okay. If they choose one of those two things. The third one I do want to get into, though, because the way they have it worded here is contrary to the Constitution's method of adding states to the Union. Okay, now I'm getting down here to it. Okay, so Title III, transition and implementation of statehood of this bill. Now, the first thing, according to the Constitution, which is going to be Article 4, Section 3, Clause 1, I do believe it is. I can pull that up real quick. So I want to give some insight on this, or I'm drawing a blank on this.
I can tell you why Puerto Rico doesn't want this. I can tell you
Well,
why Puerto
there's
Rico
a
is
lot
always.
of reasons why they wouldn't want it, but we'll go into that here in just a little bit. Okay, so yes, it is Article 4, Section 3, Clause 1. New states may be admitted by the Congress into this union, but no new state shall be formed or erected within the jurisdiction of any other state, nor any state be formed by the junction of two or more states or parts of states without the consent of the legislatures of the states concerned, as well as the Congress. Okay, so I'm going back to this, and we can see right here, if they choose the statehood route, it would be a presidential proclamation, and that would state the date of admission into the union. Okay, right there is a violation. Okay, because Puerto Rico chooses to become a state, doesn't grant them statehood. Okay, first, once they decide that they want to become a state, then it must go before Congress and be voted upon. And then Congress must approve their statehood. And typically the way that's done is there are certain requirements in order for them to become a state that Congress votes on to allow them to become a state. And when they meet those requirements, then the Congress votes again to decide whether or not they're going to admit them to the union. With this bill here, they are skipping all of that.
Yeah.
And they're saying, upon a presidential proclamation, that Puerto Rico would then become a state with equal status as every other state.
Which is power the president does not have.
Exactly. Okay. The president only has the authority to sign a law that had been passed by Congress that would allow Puerto Rico to become a state.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
This completely bypasses that. Okay. Yeah. And typically the requirements that Congress implements upon any entity wishing to become a state is, number one, they must have a constitution that guarantees a Republican form of government. Okay. Number two, they must show their financial ability to operate as a state.
Yeah, Puerto Rico can't do that. Automatically, they can't do that.
Okay. And if they can't do that, plus they also have several other criteria that they must meet. Typically, it's based upon what Congress decides those requirements are.
Yeah, but Puerto Rico is bankrupt because they've been mismanaged by the United States Congress. Right. The economy is literally, which is also one of the reasons why independence always loses. Puerto Rico cannot, even if you absolved all the debt that they owe, which isn't going to happen, they couldn't be independent. They can't survive. They'd be Haiti if they went independent.
Right.
That's why they won't do it. One reason. Another is if you're going statehood route, again, unless you absolved all the debt of Puerto Rico right now, they can't qualify because they're bankrupt, and states
Well,
can't go bankrupt, technically.
no, and we need to stop this, money machine go Bert mentality and just printing money to try to fix the problem. And trying to fix Puerto Rico would be, I can't say detrimental, but would be an awful decision right now.
It would be too expensive.
It would be. Okay. And Alaska found this out the hard way when they became a state in 1959. They were almost on the verge of resorting back to a territory of the United States because they were not able to financially operate as an independent state outside of the U.S. government.
Well, and the people that are watching this, I want you to pay attention to one thing. When Alaska became a U.S. state, times were a lot easier then. There was a lot going on, but trying to do that then compared to doing Puerto Rico now, it's two different games. It's not even in the same league anymore.
No.
And what we had to do to get Alaska to be a profitable and a reasonable part of the United States is unrecognizable compared to what we would have to deal with today. And anybody who thinks otherwise is wrong.
Look at the resources that are able to be tapped, which is the reason why
Right.
Alaska is able to be profitable, to make money, to maintain its statehood, is untapped oil, woodlands.
Well, here's
out
what
there.
really saved Alaska, okay, when it became a state. Like I said, Alaska was almost to the point that is ready to resort back to being a territory of the United States versus statehood. Then was it 1960? Yeah, it was 1964. A 7.1 earthquake hit off the coast of Alaska, causing a huge tsunami that devastated most of Alaska's southern coastline. At that point, because Alaska was a state, the federal government had to intervene because of their disaster requirements. And that is literally what saved Alaska's statehood. Okay. And then moving forward from that point, Alaska learned how to become a state by exploiting the natural resources that Alaska has: oil, gold,
lumber,
countless minerals. Okay. And that's what ultimately ended up saving Alaska. But it was the federal government intervention because of a natural disaster.
Yeah, but when you think of Puerto Rico, even if you were to say, well, they have hurricanes, so they would get the same FEMA federal disaster benefit to help them restructure, except Puerto Rico doesn't have the resources like even Hawaii. They don't have the resources that most other states have.
No,
you don't have mining resources on Puerto Rico. You don't have expansive lumber access in there. You don't have oil on Puerto Rico. You don't have the resources, so they can't.
Puerto Rico may have some oil assets offshore.
No, that's minor. That's minor.
But the assets aside, to quote the military, I think is where the term was coined, but piss poor planning promotes poor performance.
Yep.
And right now, Jan's got it nailed on the head. This has nothing to do with trying to promote Puerto Rico or trying to make it a state. This has to do with another check in the box, another vote on the seat for the left.
Okay. Puerto Rico has literally nothing. It has clay, silica, and stone.
Mm-hmm.
It can do some small scale coffee and sugar.
Mm-hmm.
Fishing, maybe some forestry, but their land mass isn't enough to really have a long, sustainable forestry.
I'm sorry, but fuck that. The fishing in Alaska and Washington is better than Puerto Rico.
Yeah, exactly. So they don't have really any. I mean, agriculturally, their land is not good for
Nope.
any type of large scale agricultural, except for coffee, tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
Their terrain doesn't offer much. They don't have much in the form of natural resources or minerals. Like I said, about the only thing is tourism and potentially some oil offshore. But we know how oil is going right now. They're trying to get rid of it. So,
well,
be a sustainable thing for Puerto Rico either.
Nobody ever mentions the good things that oil does for the economy, like the Keystone Pipeline, before it was shut down. But people love to jump on the fact that there was a leak recently, and oh dear God, it's going to be the end of the United States because there was a small leak that may affect 100 acres of area for the next 10 years. But we got to stop everything. We got to shut it down. It's got to go. It's got to go. Oh, praise Biden for shutting down the Keystone Pipeline and tripling fuel prices.
There's so much idiocy when it comes to anything about the climate change movement. It doesn't make any sense.
It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
who cares? Even if you got the United States on board with climate control and emissions emittance and things like that, India and China are going to outweigh us tenfold every day of the week.
They absolutely, it's already a fact that in the most recent climate change summit, every country in the world except the United States missed every single target they promised to hit. All of them. China and India don't even try.
No.
China by itself, India by itself creates more greenhouse gases than the United States reduces every single year. And the United States leads the world. We are 6 times more reduction in greenhouse gases than the next closest, the next highest nation in the world, which happens to be the UK. You can add all of Europe and the United Kingdom together, and they still do not reduce and have never reduced as much greenhouse gas as the United States in any one given year.
Well, right. And to look at, like, I would love to see AOC or Biden present the Green New Deal to China or India and get laughed right out of the country just to see it for my entertainment, because I'm an asshole and I'd love to see that.
Oh, they'll never do this.
What's that?
Okay, my biggest point on bringing that up was the continuous habit of Congress to circumvent the Constitution. Okay, that was my entire point.
Right.
On bringing that up. Okay, right. And I want to bring up another bill that actually has passed both the House and the Senate. Okay, and that is HR 7077. Have you heard about this bill, Michael?
No, actually I haven't.
Okay.
Let's dig into it.
This bill is called the Empowering the U.S. Fire Administration Act. Okay. And it's actually quite interesting. Okay. So what this is to require the United States Fire Administration to conduct on-site investigation of major fires and for other purposes. So in other words, anytime they deem that a fire is a major fire, this agency will be required by law to investigate it.
Well, you know what they're going to find, Mike? They're going to find a bunch of fuckers on TikTok doing birth reveals, gender reveals.
Mm-hmm. So we get these major fires, right? And this is
they're
going
back.
to amend the Federal Fire Prevention and Control Act of 1974. Okay, which we can go into that and actually look at it and see just how constitutional that act is in and of itself. But this one, the way it is written, is absolutely unconstitutional.
Mhm.
And the reason why I'm saying it's unconstitutional is it is infringing upon state rights. The
Mhm.
federal government has no authority under the Constitution, and I don't care where you look in the Constitution, to investigate fires
No.
outside of fires that happen on military installations or in federal jurisdictions, i.e., Washington, D.C., Puerto Rico, United States territories, and such.
Well,
Okay.
the problem is, and I'll let you get into it a little more, is this the government can do what it wants mentality.
Well, that's exactly, and I will go into the constitutional statement on this bill here in just a second.
I apologize. You caught me on a bad night, Marshall. I am in a hell of a mood.
No. I'm looking at this, and the first thing that comes to my mind that's pissing me off is the insane expansion of government that this would require.
Oh, this is going to be a huge expansion of government.
Unfucking believable.
Because you can
Yeah, I
claim
mean-
almost any fire is, quote, major,
Right.
Well,
that's
any definition, and God knows how many people they'll hire to do all that stuff.
It
Is-
gets
is
better
there-
than that. It gets
is there
better.
an average of like U.S. congressmen pay? Because I can see this adding over time, over the next 10 years, 20
It's
more
going to add
Congress
billions
people.
of dollars to our budget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
When
at
we're
least.
already trillions in debt, and that's just going to go up
Okay.
a crazy amount.
But here, okay, the first thing I want to get to, okay, is a major fire defined. For purposes of this section, the term major fire shall have the meaning given such term under regulations to be issued by the administrator. So in other words,
they can
they don't even
choose.
define what a major fire is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm right. It could
Okay.
be, it could
They
be
say,
anything.
well, we're going to create this agency, and then they will determine what a major fire is considered as.
Oh wait, but it's
But
going to
that's-
get worse. It's going to turn into
It does get even
the
worse.
IRS agents with guns. These guys are going to be provided a whole military ensemble to make sure they can take care of the fire.
Okay.
Boy,
But
I'm angry.
not
I'm
only
just going to be
will
quiet.
this, by law, this agency be required to investigate what they define as major fires, they will also have discretionary authority, in addition to a fire safety investigation conducted pursuant to subsection A, provided doing so would not have negative impact upon potential or ongoing criminal investigations. The administrator may send fire investigators to conduct a fire safety investigation at the site of any fire with unusual or remarkable context that results in losses less severe than those occurring as a result of a major fire, in coordination and cooperation with appropriate federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial authority, including federal agencies that are authorized to investigate the fire. So, in other words, they are essentially given free reign to investigate any fire that they wish.
I know
And
this isn't class. I know this isn't school, but I really need to speak on this right now. All right.
Sure.
Michael and Vass, please correct me if I'm wrong. Was it Minneapolis that literally burned to the fucking ground in 2020?
one of several, yes.
Yeah.
What kind of major fire was that? What kind of major fire was Oregon? What kind of major fires burned across the United States? And where the fuck is the investigation on that?
The arsons you're talking about. including the ones in Minneapolis, which was on CNN and NBC, MSNBC, where they declared both of those, and actually it was Kenosha,
State of
and
emergency.
it was and they said those were mostly peaceful riots,
protests,
which resulted in arson, death of an individual, $2 billion damages. Yeah, I remember those.
Boy,
But what they're talking about in this, under that directive, these lesser fires, that means that in every single fire department across America, there could be agents of the federal government embedded, at least one, if not several divisions, going around, quite likely armed, because firemen do sometimes get shot at. So they would have to be armed and provided with bulletproof vests, just like the 87,000 IRS agents. So therefore, if bookworms and accountants can get firearms, then they absolutely will arm these fire militia and arm
they've
them.
already been
This is
attempting
terrifying,
to federalize police departments. And in many ways, they have done so very effectively with the click your ticket program, the DUI checkpoints, and several other things that are all funded by federal money, which also gives, with these federal grants that fund these various programs, it also gives federal authorities the ability to operate in, quote unquote, conjunction with local authorities in these matters.
Well, not to quote Billy Mays, but wait, there's more. There is the potential for this is astronomical. You're going to start seeing fire trucks with gun mounts. You're going to start seeing, like you said, armed firefighters. You're going to start seeing the gosh, I had a comment and it spaced me, and I apologize, but
moving beyond the federalization of our police services, okay, and is now moving to federalize our fire services.
Oh, I remember. I'm sorry. I got to say it before I forget. Okay, so the number one state that I feel like this is going to affect, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is California. And their power grid can't handle what they have currently. So basically, I'm going to be an asshole for a second, but your Tesla is the reason for this. Your electric car, your no more gas-powered furnaces by 2026, or whatever year it is. I may be wrong. I don't know. Your no more gas-powered lawnmowers. Well, this is the reason for this bullshit.
You actually bring up a great point.
For once. Okay?
A lot
One
of fires.
Time in 400 streams. I'm finally right.
A lot of fires, especially over the winter, are caused by malfunctioning furnaces. Okay. Guess what? The majority of furnaces across the United States run on some type of fossil fuels, whether it's fuel oil, kerosene,
natural gas,
or natural gas. Okay.
And
this is a perfect way for them to start saying, well, these fires, we wouldn't have as many fires if we just go over to purely electric heat sources, which is actually completely false, but that is one of the things that they will try to do.
Yeah, but do I need to remind the people of what happened in Texas like 3 years ago? Oh, wind and solar, that's what we need. All of a sudden, the huddled masses are dying. Grandma's dying in the treatment home because there's no energy. Pipes are bursting. Houses are freezing. People can't get medical treatment that they need because they can't leave their house to get to the hospital. Wind and solar, it's the way to go.
None of this
Boy.
makes sense if you actually look at any of the
No,
details.
it's horseshit. Every last detail is horseshit. And every person who's defending it knows that it's horseshit, and they continue to defend it because they want the government to be in control and they want to be the right person. And the problem is nobody like myself, like Marshall, like Frank Johnson, like Vass, like Jan Rains is willing to do any fucking research and put their foot down when something is wrong.
Well, exactly. Okay,
All
everybody's
right,
saying
I
it's going to
am
be a good
on
thing.
one today.
Go for it, man.
Oh, I'm fucking angry.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the constitutional authority statement that is tied to this bill. Okay, Congressional Record Volume 168, number 46, Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. House. From the Congressional Record Online through the government publishing offices. By Mr. Torres of New York, H.R. 7077. Congress has power to enact this legislation pursuant to the following. Article 1, Section 8.
Oh. You want to read Article 1, Section 8?
3744. Okay. Now, Article 1, Section 8. What they are more than likely alluding to is
Commerce Clause?
Yeah.
no.
No?
Because they would have listed the exact clause.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Okay.
They tried.
Article 1, Section 8. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duty. Oh, actually, maybe any one of these.
How can it be commerce? It's a fire.
Yeah.
If you have
it wouldn't be interstate commerce. I mean,
No.
I really do not know where in Section 8 they can actually.
Well, okay.
Oh, right here. Here's where they're going to try to do it. To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing limited time. So they're just looking at this to promote the progress of science. They're not looking at the rest of the clause. Okay. And useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries.
Well, and you said it right there. This is not in the proof of science. This is in the interests of science. This is
okay. Now, if we look at this bill, look at the committees that it went through. Okay. In the House, it went to the Science Committee, Space and Technology Committee. In the Senate, it went to Homeland Security, Governmental Affairs. Okay. So they're going to try to pawn off that this is a means of promoting science. And if we look into this a little bit,
this has
in
nothing
case
to do
of
with
a major
science.
fire, the administrator may send incident investigators, which may include safety specialists, fire protection engineers, science, codes and standards experts, researchers, and fire training specialists, again, science, to the site of the fire to conduct fire safety investigation as described in subsection B.
This is not science.
To paraphrase, blah, 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 millions of dollars, blah, blah, blah. Because that's all they're interested in spending and printing money. And Mike Marshall and Vass, you guys are 100% right. And I'm sorry for staying quiet for so long in all of this. But this is unbelievable. People who aren't paying attention, the number one, I believe, and please, if I'm wrong, again, correct me, but the number one forest fire state in the United States is California. And that's because they openly admit that their grid cannot handle what they're doing. And they want to push 100% electric by 2026, 2036, whatever it is. And they already are having rolling blackouts every day and forest fires every day because their grid can't handle it.
The reason why they're having so many forest fires is because their forest management has been mismanaged.
Well, right, mismanaged. They've been blowing hundreds of millions of dollars every year on piss poor forest management, and they don't care about the fire. They care about, Vash, you were saying it a minute ago, the attention, the woe is me, the look at what's going on, the pay attention to what I have to say. And it has nothing to do with the fires. It has nothing to do with preserving California. It has nothing to do with Tesla. It's the I want attention, and it's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, there is no aspect of this that makes any sense. It's not interstate commerce. This is not a temporary protection of science.
No.
This isn't by definition of what is in Article 1, Section 8. This is not temporary. This is an expansion of power on a permanent basis.
Mhm.
That is, I mean, that's why they have it under Homeland Security, because it's not about something temporary and it's not about science. It's about what they're claiming is protecting the homeland, which is a state issue, not a federal issue in this
And
case.
like I said, they are federalizing the fire services.
This is just like arming the IRS.
Yes.
But on a different scale. Vast and Mike, can you guys help me? And I really wish I'm wrong on this. How many temporary ordinances, temporary restraints, temporary laws as a quick fix have ever been put into effect that were taken out after the problem went away?
None.
No, one.
Not Prohibition. Okay, you are right.
Prohibition was taken away by constitutional amendment.
But you guys have to agree with me. Oh, you don't have to. You can choose whatever you want. But the government doesn't care about a temporary fix. It cares about a permanent fix to a simple temporary solution. And you know what else is a permanent fix to a temporary solution? Suicide. It is a permanent fix to a temporary problem, and the government operates on the exact same motive. What can I do right now that's going to fix the problem that doesn't fix anything like gun control? And they're just going to run with it, and it's never going to go away. It doesn't matter if there's not a mass shooting for the next 100 years. Gun control will not go away. And you can quote me as saying that right now on record, December 16th, 2022, no matter what it is, the law's not going away because they're not here to protect you. They're here to fuck you.
Well, yes, because this is never meant to. This is not going to stop forest fires. It's not going to stop, quote, major fires. It's not even going to stop lesser fires. This is going to intimidate
it's going to have no impact on fire.
Well, what's going to happen? Oh, no, Mike Marshall, I hate to disagree with you, but you're wrong. It's going to cause fires because they're going to light more fires to figure out how it happens, why it happens, and they're going to spend billions of taxpayer dollars to put out these fires that they started to fix a problem.
I can't wait until they will pass this, and then we're going to find out after the fact.
Oh, it's already been passed.
No, I mean by signing. It's going to be signed into law. And then we're going to find out afterwards when the administrator, whoever that may be, I expect someone very much on the far left, an environmentalist, someone who's into climate change, is going to turn around and they're going to include in there, and we need armed individuals. And it's going to be just like with the 87,000 IRS agents. And then we find out in the hiring documents that they put out a message that, oh, yeah, you need to be armed. We're going to find out after the fact, just like we're going to find out after the fact. What is the definition? I hate when they do this. The definition. Yeah, we'll tell you our guidelines. We'll tell you our mission statement. We'll tell you everything after we start doing this. I'm sorry. That's something I need to know ahead of time, because you can write anything if you're able to decide. It's like, remember when we were talking about, I think I was talking with you guys about it, 8361, the suicide prevention bill that takes away your Second Amendment rights. And in there, they have the clause that's very clear that they will define what the process is to get removed from that eternal list after they create the department, which means they can create any loops, barriers. They can do anything to stop you from ever removing your name from the list after the fact. After you
Well,
pass the law and say, here's your name. Oh, yeah, it's real simple. Just all you have to do is just say, I don't want my rights anymore. They'll take it away. And if you ever say, I want them back, they'll go, oh, and so here's all the hoops and lumps and things you have to jump through, all the money and all the time you have to spend to maybe get that removed.
I'm sorry, but there's only one legal way that I'm aware of as a U.S. citizen to lose your Second Amendment rights or your rights as a civilian, and that's to become a felon. And that I'm aware of, that is or excuse me, to maybe denounce your citizenship. But those are the only ways to technically lose your rights. And the left is going to go ahead and say, oh, well, you don't like the forest fire bill, so therefore you lose your rights. You don't like the traffic laws, therefore you lose your rights. You don't want to wear a helmet as you ride your bicycle, there you lose your rights. And eventually we're going to turn into China, where you have a citizen score, and you're going to get seen walking across the street while it's a no walk sign, and your points are going to get deducted, and all of a sudden your rights are going to go away. And we're going to stand there, not me, not you, not like Marshall, not Frank Johnson, not Jan Rains, but we as citizens are going to stand there, and we're going to go, oh, well, doesn't affect me. I don't need a gun. I don't need a magazine, 30-round magazine. I don't need a car to drive. I don't need food to eat, whatever it is. And the average citizen is going to sit there and go, oh, boo-hoo, oh, woe is me. It doesn't affect my neighbors, so I don't care.
Well, that's always the case until once it hits critical mass, when it's too late, that's when everyone starts complaining.
Well,
it's too late. Now, I do want to, there's a question that Jan asked. Does them implementing this act mean they're going to come to your home and investigate your trash fire? You may want
eventually.
The answer to that
they
is
could. They
absolutely
have the flexibility to be able to do that.
Absolutely. By definition, in the article, which you can read from congress.gov, you can go to GovTrack, pull up the bill. It, by definition, guarantees that they can claim your local trash fire, any fire could be designated as something that they want to investigate and send in their federal agents to your home to intimidate you, and more importantly, your neighbors, to comply with whatever it is they want. Yes, this federalizes
the fire in your furnace that heats your home.
It's a fire. They can come into a safety inspection of your furnace.
You guys both know what's going to happen the second something like this happens. Let's say, Vass, that you are in your backyard doing a controlled weed burn, and I don't know the legality of it in New York, but let's say in Idaho it's completely legal to do a controlled burn in your backyard. But let's say you're in New York and you do one. What's going to happen? There's a few things that are going to happen the second you do it. One, you're going to be put on a list. Vass, you're probably already on a list, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Two, they're going to watch your home constantly. Eventually, they're going to find a way to declare what you're doing as domestic terrorism, and you're not going to be able to fly down to see your aunt and uncle for Thanksgiving. And it's going to be this never-ending cycle of you decided that the pests in your backyard, the pest weed that was taking over your crops was too much, so you took care of it to clean it out, and all of a sudden, you can't fly home for Thanksgiving. Well, they don't care about your rights. They don't care about your freedoms. They don't care about your fun. All they care about is control.
Well, to use Jan's example, as she said, so there's a trash fire. Whether it's on purpose or accidental, doesn't matter. There's a trash fire. So they send in their federal investigators to investigate your local trash fire, and you just happen to be someone who ran for elected office, may be vocal on social media against some of the policies of the government. You could have donated to a candidate that the IRS didn't like, that someone didn't like. Whatever the reason, you're someone in that area that said, oh, we need a federal agent to come in to check out that fire, no matter how minor, that happened. They're going to have those investigators come in And in their investigation on what caused that fire or what was the ramifications for it, they will find God knows what else to, let's say, domestic terrorism. You're looking at the internet. We're checking your internet files, your Fourth Amendment rights being violated. We have to look at that to see if you've been talking about or looking up arson, ways to commit arson, just in case, because we don't know. It could be a crime. You could be testing to do domestic terrorism. And they're going to go into your history and your searches. They're going to look at your social media as part of this investigation. And now they suddenly have access to every single email, every conversation you've ever had with anyone, and just so happen to find any organization you've ever seen, ever looked at, whatever the search may be, and they find an objectionable group somehow in there. I don't know, maybe you're Jewish and you looked up something in a newspaper about the war in Palestine, and you said, hey, the Palestinians trying to kill a bunch of kids in a high school in Israel, that was kind of extreme. That's all it takes. Now you're a domestic terrorist, and it goes from there. Now that sounds extreme, but under the rules they've just outlined, that is absolutely possible.
But hold on, is it really that extreme? Let's look at where gun control started. Let's look at things like Black Wall Street. Let's look like extreme racism in America. Let's look at it started with machine guns, and now it's gone all the way down to a pistol with a 10 round magazine. And is it going to go down to, oh my gosh, there's a video. I know you can't do it, but let's say me in Utah, there's a video of me lighting an aerial firework in Utah. Is that going to create a problem where, oh my gosh, this person lit what we want to classify as an explosive in the air in the United States, and now this person is a terrorist?
It's absolutely well within the capabilities
of
that law.
100%
extreme. This is absolutely extremist. It is an overgrowth and overreach of government.
But where does it stop? Let's say my neighbor decides to light off a firework, and I love my neighbor. Very short sidebar. Me and my neighbor have this little game going on where me and him try to shovel each other's driveways before the other one can get to it. Anyways, if my neighbor decides that he wants to light off aerial fireworks and I don't stop him, do I become liable? If it's a windy day and he lights an aerial firework and it starts a fire, but I didn't stop him, where does it stop?
Well, no, in that case, your neighbor shot off a firework. And even if a single leaf or someone thinks that there was a fire that was started and that was put out, it can be defined as a lesser fire. And this is how they would do it. There was a potential lesser fire, but this may have been someone, if they're firing illegal fireworks, which may be domestic terrorism, maybe they were trying to test their illegal weapons use. That's the excuse. So they send them in to check that out. As they investigate your neighbor, part of that investigation is to ask the other neighbors around them, have you noticed them do anything? They now open the door to investigate you because your answer to that neighbor, you are now a subject to investigation as well.
What if I'm a shitty neighbor and I don't have, but let's say I have tall trees and it's the middle of summer and there is some leaves that have started to fall because it's hot outside, and I have a dead grass because Kaysville City, Utah, and I'm going to point out where I live, Kaysville City, Utah will not allow me to water my grass beyond so many days a year. Otherwise I will get fined by the city and I will get fined by my HOA. But let's say I'm not allowed to water my grass, and my neighbor's firework that isn't even illegal causes a fire, and the fire in my yard jumps to their yard and jumps to the next yard, and all of a sudden we have a major fire. Am I considered a terrorist because I was unable to maintain my lawn?
No, you're not a terrorist, but they can, and it doesn't have to spread to anyone.
They can investigate me.
They can investigate you, and under the terms of that investigation to determine why it was caused, they then open up everything else. And remember, there's a FISA court So this could all be done without your knowledge,
Right.
because they could claim that either the person who shot off the fireworks or the one who's involved with it was an act of arson. Was that because of political leanings?
Right.
Once they start the investigation, if you've ever said anything against any politician, left, right, center, doesn't matter.
Right.
That now adds a political component, which then allows it to be part of FISA, which means everything then goes secret. And now you have a secret investigation against you, against possible domestic terrorism. Yes, that is comprised in that law as I read it.
Let's expand this just by even a small hair. I own guns. You all know it. I just showed one on record. And if this behind me doesn't show that I own guns, and my neighbor does as well, and let's say they investigate this and they come into my house and the only thing left standing after a fire that's going to burn at 2,600 whatever degrees Fahrenheit and burn my house to a crisp, and they're going to come in, and the only thing they're going to find standing is my safe that can withstand that, and maybe his safe with a consent that can withstand that. They're going to be like, oh my goodness, this fire was related to gun ownership because they had a safe, and they clearly, if they had a safe, they had to have guns that could withstand that. Where does it stop? It doesn't stop. They're coming after you.
Yes, it's just a longer route, but it goes to the same end if they want it to. And that's the problem. People will say, well, that's not going to happen. No, that isn't probable. That's not what's going to happen to the masses, but it can happen to any individual.
Right.
They can target people and easily suppress them and antagonize them.
They're going to look up my name and they're going to be like, oh, that's that guy in the Liberty First Foundation. And just like Jan said in the comment, see something, say something. If you don't do it, you're the enemy. Just like Bush said, you're either with us or you're with a terrorist or whatever they want to classify it as. They're going to push whatever narrative they can to make the shoe fit. They will cut off your they will cut off your toes to make the shoe fit.
Yes, because this allows them. And again, even if it happens 1 out of 1,000 times, we have 350 million people, that's 10,000 times.
Absolutely.
Even if it's 1 out of 1,000 times, it's still insanely illegal. It is insanely unconstitutional. It is oppression of the public. It is coercion. It is unconstitutional on its face because it allows this to happen.
Right. I'll be right back.
You still with us, Mike? You keep popping on and off.
So now that
nope, you're still freezing up. Hang on. Let me try and help you here.
okay, are you seeing what I'm
with you? I can find this. Hey, Mike, let me bring it up. Let me bring up the article so that my computer can handle it. Yours, I don't think can. So I can share it. Do you have it? Are you with me?
Okay.
So just drop it off of your screen and bring up my screen, and I can bring it up for you.
That's yeah.
This is what happens when you do it live, folks.
Respond.
Okay, I'm back.
No problem. So, Jeremy, I'm telling Mike to just.
It's just.
Well, Mike, I think your computer's overloaded. So just drop your screen, bring up my screen, and we can talk about it. because what he's talking about, this is what he's talking about. Democrats are looking to bar President Trump under the 14th Amendment, which is stupid.
We lost
because he has not committed a crime. He has not done anything. They've already tried to impeach him. There is no crime. There is no evidence. And now they're trying to say, well, he engaged in insurrection. There's no evidence. None. They have a lot of hearsay. They have a lot of accusations. There is no evidence. Because if they had evidence, they'd have already arrested him. It would already be a crime. There is nothing to prove this. It's just what they feel. And their thing is the 14th Amendment makes clear that based on his past behavior, Donald Trump is disqualified from ever holding federal office again. And under Section 5, Congress has the power to pass legislation to implement the This is, again, they're trying to impeach him, but they already tried that. They have never passed the bar. There is no evidence, and they cannot say he's disqualified because he isn't. There is no crime. They can put out any report they want. There is no crime. Their investigation, which is not bipartisan at all, this is a witch hunt, it does not have evidence, and there has been no trial. So he cannot be, the 14th Amendment does not prohibit him from running.
No. Well, they don't. They, just like many of their counterparts, they will take a statute, they will take a law, they will take a limitation, and they will take just the piece of it that they want to make it sound legitimate.
Here's the thing. It is legal for any president to, any members of Congress have the right to not authorize and not comply with the voting results. We've seen Democrats do that in 2000, in the year 2000. They did it again in 2004. They did it in 2016. They can hold up the authorization and the compliance of elections. They've done it. Democrats did this 3 times since 2000. So that's not illegal.
Well, they did it prior to that too.
Huh?
Well, they did in 2012 as well.
Too. They did it during H.W. Bush.
Yeah. And so that's not, so one, that's not illegal. 2, to push a vice president to refuse to certify elections, that's a conversation. That's not a crime. You can push legislation. You can push for someone to, that's advocating for any kind of legislation you want. When AOC came up with the Green New Deal, she was pushing for legislation. She was pushing members of Congress to do something. That's not coercion. That's called trying to negotiate. That's trying to pass the bill. You can leverage anyone and push them towards anything. That does not mean they are coerced. And as in the case with Mike Pence, it didn't happen. So that's not the case. The mob was not controlled by Trump. We know that. The evidence shows that. There is no concerted effort. He did not order people to go into Congress. He did not ask people to destroy anything. And in fact, the counter is true. He did tell people to go home. He did tell people to be peaceful. Even when he said, if you want to go down to Congress, be peaceful and protest, which is under the First Amendment perfectly fine. That is not inciting violence. Even if you want to interpret it as Donald Trump said, go down to Congress and protest, that is not a crime.
No, a peaceful protest is still well within the First Amendment. And to jump back just a hair, but to say that AOC had half enough brain cells to come up with the Green New Deal is like I
love the way
train of thought.
I love the way that CBS News puts this, that he failed to do anything to denounce the mob. He actually had a Twitter, and he came out and actually had a press release. He actually spoke to the press, but he had a Twitter, which was deleted by Twitter.
Yep.
And he came out and actually had a press conference, and he said on air and in social media for the people to go home. So he did denounce the mob assaulting. He said, stop with the violence. Don't be violent. Go home. He did.
Yeah.
So they're wrong there. And then they say he intervened with government officials who didn't support his false claims of mass election fraud. What do you mean he intervened? Because he has the right to claim anything he wants, whether it's true or not, has nothing to do with him making the claim. He can claim anything and intervene with government officials. How did he intervene when he gave up his position and there was a lawful, peaceful transition of government? How did he intervene? Because government officials use their constitutional right to threaten to not certify. This is stupid on its face. There is no evidence here.
But when at any point in history, did the left tell BLM and Antifa to go home and stand down? Never. They encouraged it. They wanted the fire. They wanted the riots. They wanted the zones, the chats,
Autonomous
things
zones.
like that. Autonomous zones. Thank you. They wanted that. They needed that. The reason they needed that is because they wanted to say things along the lines of, look how bad it is. Look how bad the right is, that we had to burn down your city to protect you. We had to burn down your city to protect you. And there was justification. That's what they ran with, was the right is so bad, we had to kill your shop owners to make sure that you were heard. That's how bad it is. That's their justification. That's what they ran with. And we as a people went, oh, well, it's not happening in my city.
Well, it happened in many cities, more cities than most people know reported, because it was happening in Rochester, it was happening in Syracuse, but people were focused on the fact it was happening in Brooklyn, New York. It was happening in Boulder, Austin. It was in Atlanta.
Minneapolis,
It was all over.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yes.
It's crazy.
Do me a favor. Pull up the Senate version of the Constitution.
Okay.
Okay, it's senate.gov/civics/constitution_item/constitution.htm.
Said that fast.
Senate.gov.
/civics.
Okay.
/constitution.
Okay.
_item.
Okay.
/constitution.htm.
Okay. It just took me to the senate.gov page.
Yeah, that's exactly where I want to go.
Okay. Share.
It should be on the United States Constitution.
Oh no, you'll like this. This will be much appreciated. This is literally where that exact link took me. It was to the home page. Why? They want it hard for you to find.
Just do a Google search for U.S. Senate Constitution.
Okay.
I found it. Oh, you're there. Okay.
Okay, now scroll down to the 14th Amendment, Section 3.
Where am I at? 2?
You said 4th Amendment, Section 3?
Vass, I'm going to let you take over for this. I'm going to be fully honest. I may not be 100% where I should be. So I'm going to let you pull it up, and then I will add it to the stream.
Sure. You said 14th Amendment?
Section 3.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Where is it? Okay, 10, 14. Here it is. Here it goes.
All right, I'll pull it up as soon as you share it.
So,
Okay,
so this
section
is
3.
the 14th Amendment, 1868. So we know that, and this is the Senate page, so everyone can see it. This is section 3. No person shall
Okay.
be a
So
senator
what
or
section
representative.
3 says
Mhm.
is no person shall be a senator or representative in Congress or elector of president and vice president or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state who have been previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against same or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may by vote of 2/3 of each house remove such a disability.
Right.
So the way I read that is, even though they are trying to disqualify Trump using this clause, Trump, number one, has never been indicted for insurrection.
Actually, he would have to be convicted, not
Well,
just
I'm
indicted. He
getting
has
to
to be
that
convicted.
next.
Okay.
Okay, I'm getting to that next. He hasn't even been indicted or charged with
Right.
insurrection, let alone being convicted of insurrection.
Right.
So they cannot disbar him from running for president or any other office he chooses to run for using this clause.
Yeah. It's absolutely on its face. They're wrong. They're
Exactly.
counting on the fact that the public doesn't know the law.
Mm-hmm.
This is why they introduced the legislation, because again, they're saying,
Well, they actually haven't introduced it yet. They are
Well-
they are thinking about introducing it.
Right,
Primarily this senator from Rhode Island.
they are trying to make this, and they're saying also Section 5, which is the Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article, which requires conviction.
Mhm.
They do not have the power. Neither part actually gives them the ability to stop it. They're just terrified that Trump can win.
They are grasping at straws here. And I would say by 2030, there will be some sort of horseshit feelings over facts addition to the Constitution because they are trying to burn it down in front of all of us.
This is so literally what we just did.
Mm-hmm.
Looking up the actual section, looking at the actual words,
Mhm.
compared to what they are saying, which is a bunch of feelings. Donald Trump, I love this. Donald Trump, and I'm quoting, this is the quote from Cicilline.
CBS, yeah.
And CBS News. This is Representative David Cicilline of Rhode Island, a Democrat. He says he's very clearly engaged. That is not one, very clear, has no meaning. That is as vague as you can get. Very clear to whom? To the law? No, because there's no charges. There's no insurrection. There's no accusation.
Right.
So very clearly engaged. Okay, he engaged in what? In a crime? He says in an insurrection. That means an indictment and a conviction. That to be true, you need evidence, which does not exist. And even the J6 committee meeting has no factual, substantive proof. They have allegations and feelings. They have nothing that actually legally would prove this case. So this is all about feelings. He feels like it should be self-evident. He feels like it's true. And therefore, if he feels like it's true, well, that's the same thing as a conviction. Therefore, the 14th Amendment applies. On its face, that is a lie. That is an overreach of government. It is political prosecution. which is a crime. This is an act of, this is a criminal act.
Yeah. Falsified documents, falsified claims, unproven claims. There's so much going on in that statement that just basically screams my feelings versus your facts. And I'm sorry to repeat and drill on and on and on tonight. But the problem is people will allow this to go. People would basically compare his statement to a U.S. Supreme Court ruling, and just because that's what they feel is factual. It doesn't matter what's actually factual. It doesn't matter what was recorded. He was never charged with anything. Why? Because he didn't do anything wrong. But this just goes on and on to say what I think matters more than what you know.
Well, that's why they have the title. CBS is something that a lot of people don't realize. They're very careful with their titles. They're meant to be clickbait and propagandist.
Mm-hmm.
They are meant to make people have a certain impression, a certain emotion based on the titles they put there. House Democrats introduced bill to bar Trump from office under 14th Amendment. The key here is the second half. It's the House Democrats are saying that they can ban Trump because of the 14th Amendment. Those are the key things. Democrats bar under 14th Amendment, that there is law. They're saying that this is credible, that this is a fact, that this is real. And because CBS News is saying it, it must be true.
Well,
and it's not, because CBS News, if they were doing their job, would have quoted Article 14, Section 3.
Right. And all I have to say is two words in pertaining to all of this and everything else. Prove it. Show me where the damning evidence is that he committed a crime, where anybody that they're trying to say committed a crime happened. Prove it. Because I have proof that we talked about earlier that I can use my pocket watch for self-defense under the Second Amendment. I have proof. I have Catano v. Philadelphia, I think is what it was. I have that, and I have DC versus Heller, and I have the Miller case and the Bruin case that I can use my cigar punch as defense. But they have no damning evidence for what they're saying. They have no proof. They have no court case backing it up.
Yeah, and they won't provide the full evidence to the public.
Because it doesn't exist. And you know that, and I know that, and Mike Marshall knows that, Frank Johnson and Jan knows that. It doesn't exist.
Well, I've seen lots of evidence. There's lots of video that does exist that I have seen in several documentaries and independently from the public, showing Capitol Police beating unconscious women laying on the ground. I know that in the full clip of the killing of Ashley Babbitt, that 10 seconds before she gets shot, the Capitol Police were in that room and had secured the room. They were in there in riot gear, bulletproof vests with shortened M4s. And then they retreated around the corner of the staircase. That's all just before. That is in the 10 seconds before you see the gun come out and shoot Ashley Babbitt, which is directly in the line of fire of where they 10 seconds before the Capitol Police were. This was unnecessary, but the Capitol Police cannot be audited by the public, only by Congress. They do not answer to any public authority, and that's why we don't get to see the full video.
Right. Let's be honest with each other here, and you know the answer. Was Ashley Babbitt armed?
No.
Was she in any way a threat to the Capitol Police?
No, especially when you look at the full.
Right.
If you look at the full clip, including the 10 seconds beforehand, that area was under control.
Right. Was she in any way a threat to the United States or the civilians thereof? No. And they're trying to hide that and use what they want, as you said, as evidence against it. But they take away the most important part, the 10 seconds prior to that.
Yeah. And if you've seen the unedited video, And the unedited video does exist, and Congress is, I know they have it because I've seen it, and it's been by verified sources that they already had control of that room. They had 6 officers at least that had come into the room, that were on the stairs and entering into the room containing that area with all riot gear and actually semi-automatic rifles, M4s, before the Capitol police officer ever decided to shoot. They retreated without shouting any reason why. Those police officers retreated down the stairs and around the corner of that staircase so that they were out of the line of fire. And then the Capitol police officer came out and shot Ashley Babbitt, which was unnecessary.
Right.
There is so much more to this, and we are being given the slimmest of bits of information.
Let's be honest here. As much as I don't necessarily support groups like the Proud Boys and things like that, how many deaths do you think would have happened if Donald Trump said what they're saying he said? And they won't use the words, but they're saying Donald Trump said, go, kill, destroy, whatever. If that was the case, if the groups on the far right believed that that was the case, there would not have been Ashley Babbitt's death. There would have been hundreds of deaths. There would have been thousands of rounds of ammunition fired. There would have been death and destruction everywhere if they genuinely believed what happened.
Let's be honest. There were 300,000, minimum 300,000 people on the grounds of Congress at that moment.
Yes.
300,000. There were at least 10,000 people surrounding the Capitol at that moment, plus a couple thousand people inside the Capitol itself. If there was an intent for violence or violent action, there was nothing that could have been done to stop it. Nothing. It could not have been stopped if it was organized, if it was a plan, if it was intended, even by a small group taking violent action to suppress the government, which would have caused the mob to move forward. It would have happened if that was the intent, and it didn't.
Yep.
Okay, guys, I put up in private chat a link to Title 18 USC 2383.
I got it.
Somebody pull that up for me, please.
Yep. I got it right now. I'm just
got
to
it?
switch screens here. Yep.
All right. Let me drop mine.
I think I cut yours out already.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So this is the U.S. code off of the house.gov website. Okay. Title 18, 2383, rebellion or insurrection. Whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or laws thereof, or gives aid or comfort thereto, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. Okay, so right there we have a definition of insurrection.
Yeah.
A definition of punishment for.
Well, and we have punishment, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but right here, whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection.
Right. So they haven't established whether or not there was an insurrection, and they have never established that there was a rebellion.
Exactly. Okay. Now, I do know that one person has been found guilty of sedition.
Yes, only one. He was a Proud Boy.
Okay. I'm going to put in private chat another link.
Okay.
Okay. Follow that link if you would, please.
Got it.
Yep.
And put it up.
Big button. Wow, what happened? I broke it.
No, that's all right. You got it?
Yeah, I got it. I just
okay, so
Okay.
So this is
Okay.
seditious conspiracy. If two or more persons in any state or territory or in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force to prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, possess any property of the United States, contrary to the authority thereof, they shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. Okay.
Yeah.
By both of those definitions, I do not see how they can even charge Trump with either sedition or insurrection.
They
Well, they
can't.
can't.
Well, exactly.
But
Which
they
is why
can't.
he
They
hasn't
will
been
charge
charged.
him,
Mhm.
but by definition, he'll never be guilty. But they don't
Mhm.
care. The point isn't about do they win. It's about do they make the charge. And I can tell you why they're going to do this. It's not about winning the case. It's just like, why did they impeach him twice? It wasn't, and they knew in the case of Russia collusion, which was already well proven false in terms of the Ukraine call, which was by the time they did the vote, was already well proven false. This isn't about whether or not they get the conviction, because they will turn around and say, well, that was just a conspiracy. It's Republicans, it's MAGA. They're just engineering this, and that's why it didn't go through. So they're using conspiracy theory logic to justify their loss. It is about making the accusation so that they can mischaracterize Trump or anyone for that matter, and to demonize them in the face of the public as to affect an election. This is election interference.
Well,
By
100%.
definition.
And you're 100% right. And what this doesn't prove is Trump's involvement in this in any way. But what this does prove, the 2384 seditious conspiracy, I can prove to you right now with one sentence in this that the Chad, autonomous zones, whatever, was sedition conspiracy in the
It
fact that
was.
to take or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof, Chaz was seditious conspiracy.
Every
Boom,
autonomous
there
zone,
it is.
every autonomous zone
Mhm.
is the existence of any and every autonomous zone is a violation of every
Well,
city, state, and federal law that exists. It includes the stealing property. It includes kidnapping American citizens. It means, by their definitions and by their statements, revocation of the United States government, its laws, and its authority. That is part and parcel, the core of every autonomous zone. They are illegal and unconstitutional and seditious and insurrectionist by every measure anyone can make.
right.
Well,
But what's
by
going to happen to them?
definition,
They're going to get applauded.
Yeah, they do.
by definition, both insurrection and seditious conspiracy. By definition, AOC has been guilty at least 2 times since she's been in office.
Yeah, when she was talking about the Supreme Court and violating their determinations, that's one of
Okay.
them.
The first time was basically when she shut down the hall to the House
Nancy
Speaker's
Pelosi.
office.
Yeah.
Okay. Right
Yeah, I
there
remember that.
was an insurrection, and it was also seditious conspiracy because multiple people were arrested at that time for literally using violence, using force during that protest. The next time was at the Supreme Court, as you indicated also, Michael, when AOC was protesting and she was arrested
Yeah.
Mhm.
That one. So right there are
Arrested without
so if you're
handcuffs.
going to
Without
actually
handcuffs.
implement this, implement it across the board.
Well, they're not going to do that because this is political. This is about
We know
election
that.
interference. This is about changing the emotional reaction of the public to an actual candidate to influence their voting. It is by definition election interference. It is coercing individuals to vote in a certain manner that they would
Mhm.
not normally choose on their own without that force being applied
Exactly.
to them.
Okay. And we know that. And that's the whole point I'm trying to bring out on this is also
Yeah.
because we also need to look at Talib, okay, and
Mhm.
her literally bailing people out that were charged on the various protests across the United
Mhm.
States, burning down buildings and so forth.
Kamala Harris.
She
too.
also basically encouraged this. We need to charge Maxine Waters with these
Mhm. Mhm.
when she did the same thing on many of her speeches and trying to overthrow the presidency of Donald Trump. Okay. I mean, we've got countless times where we can show people that were elected in office where they are actually guilty by definition of these laws for violating them. But yet
Yeah.
we're trying to hold somebody accountable that by definitions assigned in these laws, he doesn't meet the criteria.
Mhm.
Because this is about power. This is about winning an election. This is about
Mhm.
coercing and manipulating people's emotions. This isn't about the law. This is why the news media will say, oh, well, AOC was just protesting. No, she actually committed sedition. She actually committed an insurrection, a rebellion. That's
Mhm.
exactly what she did by definition. Maxine Waters did incite mobs of people in Minneapolis in 2021, April 2021, which then resulted in a drive-by mass shooting
Well,
and rioting. She did that. It was on record. We have the
Mhm.
video of it. There are many examples that we can point to, but that's been the media is covering them because they have a political agenda.
Well,
And
was
people
it
need to
Max?
understand that.
Was
Yeah.
it Maxine Waters or somebody else who said, when you see them at restaurants, make sure to
That's
raise the
Waters.
That was
It's
Maxine.
unbelievable. That is open threats. That's some. I could look deep enough and find some form of proof of domestic terrorism of what they're doing.
If we apply the laws properly and evenly,
Mm-hmm.
then yes, they are guilty and we can. But part of that is getting the public to agree
Mm-hmm. That's
because
the
they're elected
problem.
officials.
Getting the
And
public to agree.
yeah, and we've changed the wording. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why they use such specific wording on, well, they won't call the autonomous zones. Matter of fact, they stopped saying anything about autonomous zones and they called them the protests.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they weren't protests. They were autonomous zones. They were an insurrection by definition. They took United States property. They held American citizens hostage,
Yeah.
which is kidnapping. They barred the public from the authorities from being able to maintain law and order. They instituted their own laws and rules and regulations on U.S. sovereign soil.
Well,
But they didn't use those terms in the media, and that's why the
well,
public doesn't connect the two.
no, and they don't want you to talk about how they stopped fire trucks and ambulances from helping people.
Yes. Yeah.
It wasn't so much as stopping people, it was stopping the help. And then all of a sudden it got so bad when their people started getting injured and they wanted the ambulance and the fire trucks and they were like, no, hands off, we're not touching it. And all of a sudden, once again, the other side was the problem.
Yeah. Again, this is all part of a manipulation because if we are being honest and fair,
Mm-hmm.
then in New York State, 6,000 people wouldn't have their charges just wiped out without ever showing up in a courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
They just wiped away the charges. Oh, you
Mhm.
committed rioting in second degree, first degree. Yeah, that's gone. We're just going to throw that out. Wait a minute, but we have video. We have evidence of them doing it.
Right.
Oh, yeah, but that doesn't count.
Well, this
yeah, it
is
does.
an extreme version of California, and that as long as you still less than $999, whatever, we're not going to prosecute. And there
Yes.
can be video of you walking out of Home Depot with 9 power tools equaling less than $1,000, and it's okay. We're not going to prosecute. And it's that what at what point do we cut it off and say, okay, you're a criminal, no longer you're just, peacefully protesting, you're just robbing the store, you're just burning down the city. At what point do we stop and say, okay, this is enough? This is no longer a petty offense, this is terrorism.
Yeah, but the problem is you can't go backwards on that.
Mm.
See, once you say that law does not apply, once you say, oh, you're stealing, there's no question. We have video, we have witnesses, you have your fingerprints, we have all the evidence, hard, actual evidence, not circumstantial, substantial evidence. You committed this crime. You can even admit that you committed this crime.
Right.
Their threshold said $999, so it's not a crime. If it's not a crime, even though on the books, even by law, by history, by judicial precedent, it is a crime, and it is a confirmed crime, even self-admitted crime. If you say that that isn't a crime, then there is no crime. It's like Brittany Griner. She, as an example, she is a self-admitted criminal. She admits that she carried drugs illegally into a foreign country and in knowing violation of the laws of that country. Even if she did it accidentally, that wouldn't be an excuse, but she knew she did it and she asked for the mercy of the court. She didn't get it. That is a crime. We have now bailed out. We have forgiven her of her international crimes to transmit drugs. Then there is no crime about transmitting drugs across country lines for the United States. By that precedent, then people coming from Mexico into the United States with fentanyl can't be prosecuted.
Yep.
Why? Because we just said that this woman who admitted the crime, she's not guilty. So why is the guy with fentanyl guilty?
Yep.
That's why they have to be very careful with Paul Whelan.
Well, yeah, but this is why I'm upset about this. Again, these are consequences, because when you start invalidating laws and you're picking and choosing which law and at what time and how it applies and who it applies to and who it doesn't apply to, then you don't have a system of law. You have varying degrees of organized chaos, and that only gets worse. And at the same time that we are having this organized chaos take place, we are also demonizing and separating people based on various ideologies, some of them political, some of them are social. And you're dividing people. All you're doing is breaking apart a nation, because the nation cannot pick and choose laws. You cannot pick and choose your laws. They either all apply or none of them apply. You
And
cannot pick and
that's
choose.
where we've got to get back to equality under the law.
Yeah. Not equity.
Okay.
Equality.
Right. Not absolutely not equity, equality.
Before we continue
Okay.
on,
I'm going to put
I
another.
actually have to step out. As much as I'm enjoying this
Link
stream
up.
and being vocal this time, I actually have to go. I apologize.
No, it's about 2.5 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. My phone's kind of blowing up.
Actually,
but
we are 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I'm having a hell of a time this stream, and I'm having a good time. And as angry as I am, it's nice to be able to speak out and be vocal about this. But I'll let you wrap it up. I'm going to say two things. One, go ahead, scan the code, go to our website, and join the fight. But I love every one of you guys, and I'm so glad that you guys are here every Friday to help us out. But for my reasons of protecting my house, my family, promoting my family, and my love for you guys and everything, I do have to say goodnight. I am going to go. I'm not going to end the broadcast like I almost did. I'm going to leave the studio. But again, you guys, thank you, Jan. Thank you for jumping in, Vass and Michael. Thank you for your support and letting me ramble on tonight, because I have rambled a little bit, a lot more than usual. But I do have to go.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good night,
Count,
Jeremy.
police are minutes away.
You got it.
Do you know, I love this one. So, Michael, I've got in the private chat one more link.
Let's see what we got here. Oh, the governing of law. Yeah, I saw that. Bingo. It's the Indiana law, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sharing it.
Oh, okay. I just saw it pop up. I forget you can't put them up automatically.
That's all right.
So Indiana
Yep.
has literally caused law enforcement to basically cry out.
Well, this is dangerous. And it's been around since 2012, so I'm surprised.
It is, I will say, to some extent, it is dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
However, we also need to take into the fact. Breonna Taylor, is that her name? The woman that was the EMT woman that was shot?
Breonna Taylor, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay. Right here is an instance where the boyfriend shooting was justified.
Yeah. I mean, if they didn't identify themselves as police when they prior to breaking down the door, you can't break down the door, get into the room with guns drawn, and then say you're a police officer. Mm-hmm. That's a bit after the fact. But I'm already in motion at that point. It's the middle of the night.
And then there's other times when police are entering vehicles and other stuff without warrants, without probable cause. Okay, just because. Okay. And it's about time that citizens have the ability to start resisting this. Maybe not shooting cops.
Yeah, there's my big difference. But you've always had that right. You've always had that right. You don't need a law for this. It already exists as a right.
But we need to start holding our law enforcement accountable to a much higher standard than what they're being held to today.
Yeah. We see, that's the thing. We already have the laws. We already have the standards. They're not enforced. They're not equally applied.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, if someone, like their supposition when they start this article, it's 2 a.m. you wake up and someone just broke through your door with a gun. And you didn't ask anyone to be there. They're just suddenly there. Are you lawfully allowed to shoot? Yes, I am. Of course I am. I don't know who the hell it is. I got to defend myself at that point for whatever reason. Now, but that's the equal application of the law. It already exists. You already have that right to say. And what I fear is by saying you have the right to shoot a police officer instills, again, that breakdown of law. We're entering into that chaos because now you're encouraging that conflict, because you have to be very explicit here. if someone breaks into my house in the middle of the night and I don't know that, I didn't ask anyone to be there and they just break in and they have guns, yeah, I'm going to defend myself. But to say that, oh, I have the right to shoot police officers and they lawfully notified me, they shouted police and they made the noise before entering. And I have knowledge of this. I have the expectation that I have knowledge. I don't get to fire at them. Although someone could look at this and go, but Indiana says I can shoot because I can resist. That's not the proper application of the law. But again, we're looking at people who don't know the law. They just know headlines.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I don't like this.
Yeah, I don't like the headlines that they're using. Okay. And I'd have to actually pull up the law and read it and see what it actually says. However, this is could be a good thing in the fight against red flag laws.
I don't think the court should see it that way. Because with the red flag law, you do have a warrant ahead of time. You have to. Issued by the court. They theoretically have a probable cause, which is disputable, but they at least have that preposition, and they can enter with that. They would have to acknowledge police before entering a household, and so you don't have the right to defend yourself because they have a legal warrant, at least to your knowledge at that moment. The question of the root of the problem is before that, and therefore it invalidates the warrant. That's something that would come up in the trial. Actually should have come up beforehand, but whatever.
Well, just because something's legal doesn't mean it's lawful.
I understand, but that would also be somewhat defined in that moment. For that person in that moment, it's 5 a.m., 6, 7 a.m., they're at my door. They're bursting down the door. They are notifying me that they are police and they have a warrant. You don't have a right to shoot them. Even if they're warrant, they're saying, we're here, red flag, we're coming in. You don't have a right to shoot them.
Mm-hmm. But again, like I said, okay, there's a lot of controversy on this. Okay, as there is a lot of controversy on red flag laws.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And as you know, right now, our police are abusing their authority way, way, way too often.
Many of them are, yeah.
Okay, and we have to quit allowing that. Okay, and the biggest reason why they are able to abuse their authority is the fact that we allow it.
Well, again, we need people to be aware of the law and the application of the law. People need to educate themselves. You can't just take someone's word for it. You can't.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, and I totally agree that people do need to take responsibility for researching this information, for learning this knowledge. Okay, and whether it's through stuff like our live streams and so forth, they do need to start taking that responsibility. They do need to start learning. Okay, and they need, one thing they can't do also is just take our word for it. They need to do this research on their own.
Oh, absolutely.
We may lead them to the path and start them down the path, but they need to continue going down that path and not just take our word for it.
Oh, never take our word for it. If just because I've had the conversation with lawyers and members of Congress. Doesn't mean that I understand it properly or the people that I spoke to understand it properly. You need to find out for yourself, especially in your various states, your various cities. You have to understand where you are with that law, how it's being interpreted, and you have to make a decision. But I agree or I don't agree. Maybe you think it's great that in California you can steal up to $999 worth of goods. Maybe you think that's a good thing and that, the stealing is only $1,000 and up. Okay, please justify that to me. Maybe I've missed something. Maybe we've missed something and we just don't understand some aspect of it. I've yet to hear that argument, but I'm open to hear it. And if I'm wrong, I'll be happy to be okay. If you can justify it to me, fantastic. Telling me someone's skin color, but they have a different skin color. That's not a justification. So don't even try that. That is just trying to wave away any criticism through the veil of, well, it's racial justice. That's stupid. No, justice isn't based on the color of your skin.
No,
it's based on the law.
Right.
And if you want to make that argument, you better have a good one, because you can't just tell me skin color. What does that mean? I can walk around killing people because I'm darker skinned than you are, Mike? No. Well, then why am I allowed to steal something and you're not? Why is anyone? That's stupid. That is stupid on its face to me. But if there's an argument out there, we'd love to hear it on any of the things we talk about.
And we always invite people to challenge us on our positions, okay? On our interpretations. Mm-hmm. We invite them to. If anybody that's watching this, either during the live stream or on the rebroadcast of the live stream, if anybody wants to debate anything with us, okay, and challenge our positions on it, we openly encourage you to reach out to us, and we will gladly bring you on the show and let you voice your viewpoints and voice your opinions on these matters. Because that's one thing that we don't have enough of is good, honest, open dialogues.
Yeah. How are people supposed to learn? How are they supposed to improve if they don't know?
Right. Exactly. And how can you know if all you are is talking in an echo chamber?
Yeah.
Okay. If you are only talking to people that have the same viewpoints as yours, I'm sorry, you're not going to grow. You're not going to actually evolve and actually uncover the truth.
Yeah. Well, let's always remember, truth is never relative. If you're telling me it's relative, if you tell me it's
not relative,
then you're wrong. Almost unequivocally on that basis. It's my truth, then it's wrong, because your truth is just an opinion. And
there is no such thing as my truth.
Exactly.
Okay. I totally agree with you. But the only way to actually get to truth is by hearing all sides.
Mm-hmm. Evaluating the evidence, evaluating the argument, evaluating the situation, going through the process. You have to go through it. That's the only way to get to objective truth.
Right.
Because truth isn't subjective. It's never subjective.
No, it's not. Okay. We have been going for almost 3 hours tonight.
Yeah. Okay. It's almost like one of my Sunday shows.
Longest broadcasts yet. So I'm going to go ahead and stop things, but I am going to put out a few promos. I want to remind everybody that our 2023 membership drive is currently active. And the website's up on the screen right now, where you can go and sign up and become a member of the Liberty First Foundation. And we are asking that our members pay $15 a year. And the reason why we're asking that is to allow us to be able to, number one, reach more people with our message. Okay. We've been fighting this fight for quite a few years, and most of the time we are behind the scenes. It is time for us to start leading the charge instead of assisting others with that. Okay. Because regardless of what their agendas are or whatever, regardless of that, we need to lead that charge because our mission is to restore the Constitution of the United States back to its original intent. And the only way we can do that is number one, through educating people. And to do that, we need to extend our reach beyond what we are currently able to do. Another way that you can help us, besides becoming a member, and I encourage everybody to become a member, but if you think that's not for you, another way that you can help us is by liking, sharing, and commenting on this stream. Okay. This helps with our engagement and getting other eyeballs on our content and our feeds. Okay. We have a lot of stuff out there and we need your help to expand our reach. Our reach only goes so far. We have a finite amount of people that we can actually engage with. However, we can amplify that with your help. And all you have to do is share this to groups that you're involved with, share it on your feed, whatever. But share this information out there. The more you share it, the better we can actually work against the algorithms that are working against us. So that being said, we do encourage everyone to participate in the conversation. We encourage all of our viewers to participate in the conversation whenever we have our live streams. Jan does a great job doing that every week. She's right there engaging with us, and we thank her for that. Dal Grimm is another good one. Agent Black.
Oh, yeah.
All three of them have been very crucial in engagement. We encourage everybody to engage. If nothing else, just say hi. Let us know that you're there. Our chats are always open, and we do encourage everyone to participate. We also encourage you, even after the show is in rebroadcast, to comment. Let us know what your opinions are. Let us know if you agree with us, if you disagree with us. And if you disagree with us, let us know why you disagree with us. Because, again, we don't know everything. And it's very possible that we are missing some key point. And we won't know that unless you point that out to us. However, if you do disagree with us, do prepare to debate with us because we will challenge you on your position. Okay? Because, again, that's how we grow. Okay? Is you challenging us and us challenging you back. Share this with people that aren't like-minded with you. Okay? Get the other side involved. Get other people. Get people that may not think like you involved in these conversations because that's where we really start changing America is when we start having conversations with people we don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank Michael Vasquez for joining us again tonight. He is the host of No Sound Bites Allowed. You can find him every weekend doing his show live, and he gets into depth on many, many, many subjects. I do encourage you to find him on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all over. He's on all the social media. I encourage you to follow us. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I think that's it for right now. We are working to expand our social media reach and we will be engaging in other platforms here in the near future. I also encourage you to visit our website at l1f.us. There you're going to find a bunch of articles that we've written over time. Our article writing is a little slow because we are very busy with our membership drive right now. However, start looking forward to some new content being put on there soon. And some of that content is going to only be available to our paid members. So if you want access to all of our content, I do encourage you to become a member. And you can become a member at l1f.us/L1F membership drive. And that address is on the screen right now. And I want to thank everybody for watching. And we will see you next week, same time, same place. That's Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can find our live streams on Facebook and YouTube. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.